Buckingham Palace has just shattered the illusion of a united front with a cold, two-page press release that has sent shockwaves through the global financial elite. The target? Not a foreign adversary, but the inner circle of Queen Camilla herself. On the third anniversary of King Charles's coronation, a day meant for celebration, Prince William has officially declared war, not with swords, but with ironclad legal mandates. He has successfully shut down a billion-pound corporate venture initiated by Tom Parker Bowles, effectively cutting off the commercial oxygen to a family many believe has been overstepping for far too long. To understand the sheer brutality of this move, we must look at the timeline that started in the shadows of August 2022, just weeks before the late Queen Elizabeth breathed her last. While the world watched the changing of the guard, a different kind of guard was being positioned in the tax havens of Luxembourg. The focus of this scandal isn't the public crown estate, which is watched by Parliament like a hawk. No, this is about the sovereign's private holdings, the hidden billions, the unaudited wealth, and the ancient hunting lodges that operate in a legal gray zone. According to data tracked by Reuters, the late Queen's private wealth reached an all-time high in her final years. This is unregulated, untaxed, and incredibly lucrative. And this is exactly what the Parker Bowles family wanted to sink their teeth into. Corporate records now reveal that as the Queen lay dying, Tom Parker Bowles registered a mysterious entity called Hill and Crown Limited. Based in Luxembourg to mask its stakeholders and optimize tax structures, the plan was simple. Turn historic royal properties into boutique retreats and sell royal-branded luxury goods to the highest bidders in Dubai and London. It was a calculated monetization of 1,000-year-old prestige, and they thought they were untouchable because of Camilla's proximity to the throne. But they forgot one thing: Prince William doesn't miss a beat. While Camilla's legal team was busy drafting demands for shared administrative oversight of the Chiltern Hills estate, a property worth hundreds of millions, William was watching from the shadows. The boldness of the Parker Bowles family reached its peak in January 2026. Behind the guarded walls of Highgrove House, Camilla assembled a team of top-tier constitutional lawyers. Their argument: since her family now supports the public profile of the monarchy, they earned a seat at the table where the private assets are managed. They wanted voting rights. They wanted the keys to the kingdom's private vault. It was a move to dismantle the bloodline boundary that has stood for centuries. They expected a fight. They expected a media circus. What they got from William was something much more terrifying: absolute, bone-chilling silence. For weeks, the Prince of Wales issued no statements. He gave no briefings. To the arrogant legal team at Highgrove, this silence looked like weakness. They thought the king's wife had won. They thought William was too afraid to challenge his father's spouse. But in the world of high-stakes power, silence isn't a sign of hesitation, it's the sound of a trap being set. William allowed them to expend their resources, to formalize their greed, and to put their ambitions in writing. He waited for them to overplay their hand, knowing that the weapon to destroy them had already been forged by a woman who saw this coming from a mile away. The late Queen Elizabeth II was a master of the long game, and before she died, she left her grandson a nuclear option that would render Camilla's legal team completely powerless. On February 3, 2026, the trap was finally sprung in the Green Drawing Room at Buckingham Palace. Under maximum security, Prince William met with the monarchy's most senior legal advisors. This wasn't a family chat, it was a clinical execution of a billion-pound ambition. William activated the Anticipatory Obstruction Clause. This clause, written by Queen Elizabeth herself over a decade ago, explicitly states that anyone marrying into the family after 2010 is permanently barred from managing or commercializing the private estates. The precision of the date, 2010, was no accident. It was a laser-targeted strike against the influence of the extended Parker Bowles family. When the clause was read aloud, the room went cold. Camilla's lawyers realized in an instant that their entire strategy, years of planning, and millions in investment had just hit an impenetrable wall of vellum and ink. The Queen had seen their greed coming before they even dared to whisper it. The legal victory in the Green Drawing Room was only the beginning. While the physical land was protected by the late Queen's hidden clause, a massive threat still loomed in the digital and international markets. Tom Parker Bowles's Luxembourg entity, Hill and Crown Limited, was moving at lightning speed, preparing to flood the markets of Dubai and London with products that carried the royal seal of approval without ever receiving it. This is where the story shifts from legal documents to a high-stakes forensic investigation. At 3 a.m. on March 8, while the rest of the world slept, the Vault of Silence, within Windsor Castle became the command center for a counter-operation that would change the hierarchy of the monarchy forever. Princess Anne, known as the firm's most ruthless enforcer, was not working alone. In a move that shocked the palace establishment, she had recruited the young and brilliant Lady Louise Windsor. At just 22 years old, Lady Louise had been dismissed by the media as a quiet background figure. They were wrong. Utilizing her expertise as a data researcher, Louise began a digital audit of the offshore corporate servers in Luxembourg. As Princess Anne physically unearthed ancient vellum deeds from heavy oak chests, documents like the Appendix R3, which proved the Cedar estate could never be commercialized, Louise was tracking digital breadcrumbs across continents. She uncovered the smoking gun, digital design portfolios from Hill and Crown Limited that showed they had already printed restricted royal crests onto labels for premium wines and honey. This wasn't just a family disagreement anymore, it was high-level intellectual property theft against the crown. Louise and Anne had secured the indisputable evidence William needed to deliver a final, public blow that would ensure the Parker Bowles family could never claim ignorance. The stage for this final strike was not a courtroom, but the Commonwealth Day service at Westminster Abbey on March 10th. Under the gaze of delegates from 54 nations and thousands of cameras, Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, executed a masterclass in psychological warfare. Before the service even began, King Charles had quietly authorized the activation of sovereign immunity over the contested assets, effectively killing the Luxembourg business model in one stroke. But the public needed to see the shift in power. As the royals entered the abbey, Catherine sent a message that was heard around the world without saying a word. Wearing the historic Bahrain pearl drop earrings, jewels reserved for the direct successor, she used her structured navy hat to elegantly but firmly intercept Camilla's attempt at a familiar greeting. It was a physical and symbolic block, a public declaration that the gates to the Windsor legacy were now officially closed. Nearby, Prince William stood with the aura of a man who had already won. He didn't look at the cameras, he looked at the future. His brief, one-second eye contact with Princess Anne was the only confirmation needed. The mission was complete. While the world saw a beautiful tradition, Tom Parker Bowles sat in the pews watching his billion-pound dream evaporate in real time. Investors, terrified by the news of the royal trademark enforcement, began canceling contracts before the final hymn was even sung. The Parker Bowles family had attempted to play a game of chess with the masters of the game, only to realize that William had moved his pieces decades ago. The corporate strategy was collapsing, but William wasn't finished. To ensure this empire could never rise again, he was preparing to institutionalize his victory, moving from defense to a permanent state of absolute control over the family's private billions. Fast forward to today, May 6, 2026. The streets of London are a sea of flags as the nation celebrates the third anniversary of King Charles's coronation. To the casual observer, it is a day of pageantry and unity. But behind the heavy curtains of Buckingham Palace, Prince William has just delivered the final, definitive strike. He chose this exact moment of national celebration to release a short, clinical press release that has effectively rewritten the financial future of the monarchy. The announcement of the Royal Private Heritage Protection Committee is not just another administrative update, it is the final nail in the coffin for Camilla's family's commercial ambitions. This new governing body has been granted absolute oversight over every private estate, every hidden trust, and every ancient hunting lodge that the Parker Bowles family once hoped to monetize. The structure of this committee is a masterpiece of institutional defense. Prince William assumes the role of chairman with absolute veto power. Princess Anne is the chief legal advisor, bringing her legendary, no-nonsense enforcement to the books. And in a move that signals the dawn of a new era, Lady Louise Windsor has been officially named head of digital archives, tasked with guarding the Crown's intellectual property with the same forensic precision she used to dismantle the Luxembourg servers. Notably and brutally absent from this new board is any mention of Queen Camilla or her children. The administrative doors to the Windsor billions have been welded shut from the inside. The message to the international markets was received instantly. The Bank of the Monarchy is no longer open for outsiders, and the heir has officially taken the keys. The real-world consequences were devastating for the opposition. By mid-morning, corporate tracking systems in Europe observed a total collapse of the Luxembourg-based entities. Stag Crown and Hill and Crown Limited officially filed for immediate dissolution. Without the ability to use royal trademarks, without access to the historical lands, and facing the threat of sovereign litigation, the billion-pound empire evaporated into thin air. Years of planning, millions in secret investments, and the high-stakes dreams of Tom Parker Bowles dissolved into a pile of worthless paperwork. The hidden billions of the late Queen remain exactly where she intended them to be, under the absolute control of her grandson and his chosen defenders. The climax of this power struggle was visible to millions during the traditional balcony appearance at Buckingham Palace. As the royal family stood together to wave to the cheering crowds, the underlying reality was undeniable. Queen Camilla stood waving with a perfect, practiced smile, performing her duties with flawless professionalism. But just steps away stood Prince William, not as a man waiting in the wings, but as a leader who has already secured his territory. He didn't need to say a word. By outmaneuvering an offshore corporate strategy and institutionalizing the protection of his grandmother's wealth, he proved that he is already governing the Windsor legacy. The game is over. The gates are locked. And as the sun sets over London, one thing is clear. The future king has ensured that the history and assets of the crown remain exactly where they belong, protected by a wall of silence and a legacy of iron.